So at Triangle, we were thinking of ways of how to affect social change on the ground that would impact people's lived realities. And one of the ways we thought about doing this was community theatre, or theatre for social change. It was a discussion that I initially had with COC, but then piloted it first with another funder. And what we did was we took a community where hate crimes have been prevalent, and instead of concentrating on what the typical areas are, the hotspots are, we did this in a more rural setting where men have been predominantly targeted. So at the moment we have a murder case running in series. The person and the safe space of Triangles is located in Bella Vista, which is part of series. And we realized that David, who was murdered, is not the first person to be murdered. He's the third in a relatively small community. So how could we affect social change in that community to get messages across without resorting to IEC materials, for instance, which nobody is going to read? Yes, we have court presence around the court case, and we have pickets and we have protests, but that doesn't really affect social change so much. What does affect change and impact people often is people's own stories. So we, the group together, formed wrote a script, and it was a very interactive piece. It had serious moments, it had very funny moments to it. There are good singers in the group. There's a lot of gifts and skills and talents in the group that were used to put something together that would be entertaining and engaging, but also would have a strong advocacy component. We weren't too sure what the response would be from the community, if they would attend it all, since it was an LGBTI piece, but we hoped in a way that in communities where there is very little in the way of entertainment and very little in the way of things to do, that people would attend. So we advertised it a little in the area. The word got around, and 400 people packed the community hall that night. And what it did was it served a couple of purposes. One, we clearly got the message across. We had particular themes around stigma, around discrimination, around hate crimes, around non-acceptance by parents. So those were all woven into the story, and we got those stories across in very real ways because they're being told by people whose lives are being impacted by these injustices. What it also did was we encouraged people to invite their parents, those, or parents, but we had particularly great comeback from some of the cast members whose parents had not been accepting of them. One in particular that stood out that I read to the group was somebody who was saying his father, for the very first time in his life, spoke about being proud of him, seeing him on stage and being proud of him, instead of being denigrating and just outright prejudiced and homophobic. So it served to sensitize the community. It served to for a lot of them have parents be proud of them being part of something like this and being told they were proud of them, which did a lot for the self-esteem of the group. And what it also did was it served as an income generator for the group, because each group decided, we did it with two groups, but the group decided what they would charge as a cover charge at the door. There was an interval so they could do food, sell things during interval, and so it served as an income generation project for the group themselves, which was tremendously empowering because it was all up to them, what they wanted to do with it, what they wanted to do in order to raise funds on that night. So it served as a great advocacy tool. It served as a great sensitization tool. And there has been requests now from the community themselves in that area for a second play. And what we realized too is pieces like this can be used for different themes. So you can adapt it and make it about bullying in schools, for example. Hate crimes, non-acceptance by parents, the conflict of spirituality and sexuality. There's no end to the amount of themes that you can have running around a piece like this, and draw in 400 people in this case, and really get them involved in the story. The audience were very participatory. They were engrossed in the story. If one of the characters was being judged by the reverend, the audience were audible in their protest. And this is a community that have killed 3 gay men. So for us, this is something that has worked extremely well as an advocacy tool.